When I say the score is a character of the film itself, what do I mean by that? Do I mean that it's catchy, that it's emphasized more, or that it's just different? When it comes to Drive, most people just see it's retro and therefore unique. In fact, Stranger Things has been getting a lot of the same praise for having an 80s synth soundtrack, though it's nothing new to be sure. This has been happening in indie films for a couple years now with It Follows, The Guest, and if you want to go back even further, Ty West, The House of the Devil played around with a similar idea. And though I'm sure someone, somewhere did this first, merging a contemporary genre flick with an original 80s-esque soundtrack, you'd be hard-pressed to find one that does it better than Nicolas Winding Refn's Drive. But films like these work because they're trying to emulate something, an aesthetic, a time period, or a specific film. So what film is Drive trying to imitate? The answer is not one film, but actually two. Michael Mann's Thief and Walter Hill's, get ready for this, The Driver.
You had pulled these two, obscure gems out, and you're like, all right, these are the two movies that when you put them together, you get Wending's Drive. And Refn is like, no, this isn't where it came from. And you sit and you watch them, and it's like, holy shit, dude, you stole the font and practically the opening sequence from Thief for your movie, and the look and the style, and then you watch Driver and you're like, he stole actual scenes from Driver for Drive.
He's not lying, by the way. It is downright gratuitous how much is taken from these two. But the reason it works in the case of Drive is because, like all great works of homage, you don't lift from an individual source. If that were the case, then it might as well be a remake. But if you take from various places and put them together in a unique way, then that is the essence of originality. This is why Stranger Things works better than something like Super 8.
And there's the great old maxim, good writers borrow, great writers steal.
So The Driver's a dead giveaway, but of all Michael Mann films, why was Refn lifting from Thief? What does that have over, say, Heat or Collateral, some of Mann's more acclaimed work? Well, besides the more singular narrative, it also has the score by Tangerine Dream. Refn's always had an affinity for synthesizers, just look at Bronson for instance. But the Tangerine Dream score adds an emphasis to the technical aspects of Thief while still evoking something undeniably 80s. It gives the film an identity that fits with how slick it is. Because Michael Mann films don't favor style over substance, the style is the substance.
That's been the hallmark of Michael Mann's career. I mean, Michael Mann, you look at his movies, and they really are, like, plot-wise, they are B movies. But he shoots them to look like fucking A movies. Right. And then eventually started getting A-list stars, so they became A movies.
So in keeping with that approach, Refn takes The Driver, a simple, fun genre film, but presents it with more class the way Michael Mann would. The book it's adapted from, contrary to the film, employs a non-linear structure to shake up an otherwise been-there-done-that kind of plot. But in keeping the hard-boiled noir tone of the novel, Refn wanted to streamline the story like a Western the same way Walter Hill does, where characters are defined by their actions rather than expository dialogue. Characters so defined that when you reach the end, you realize none of them needed to have names. And the most important part of paying homage comes with what you're trying to say about the work you're lifting from. The book draws various parallels between Driver's process as a stuntman and as a getaway driver. Except where James Salas compares them through the meticulous planning, Refn sees him as someone pretending to be someone else. When forming the character, Gosling described him as someone who's, simply put, seen way too many movies. And that's exactly what he is. Driver is a pastiche of every cool Steve McQueen type figure. When he's a stuntman, he's risking his life to be that character in an action movie, just like when he's risking his life to be a getaway driver in his own movie. He's the hero of his own story. But the film roots itself in reality in some interesting ways, not just in showing how awkward those quiet heroes would actually be, but even in a chase scene. Think about every car chase and how counterintuitive they are. The goal should be to stay inconspicuous, and yet the hero always picks the car that stands out the most. Now, notice how Drive dangles all these nice hot rods right in front of you, one after another. And which one does he go with?
Chevy Impala, most popular car in the state of California. no one will be looking at you.
Or consider the noir trick of having smoky cinematography. Smoke is great because it balances light, it's transparent, but still adds dimension to the frame. In fact, True Detective went pretty overkill with this a few times. But in Drive's world,
put out the fucking cigarette, I'm eating. Sorry.
It's a completely throwaway line, but subliminally it informs you that this is taking place in the real world. This is why the violence feels like it has more context. It's not glamorized the way an action film would. It's meant to leave an actual impact. People take the fable of the frog and the scorpion used in the story and naturally assume that Driver is the scorpion and Irene is the frog. He stung her despite his better interest, but does so because it's in his nature. But consider this. What if Driver is the frog and this lifestyle is the scorpion? Every time he wears that jacket with the gold scorpion on his back, it's when he's in the presence of his crime life, even if he's rejecting it.
I got this sweet job coming up.
How about this? Shut your mouth, or I'll kick your teeth down your throat and I'll shut it for you.
So when he tells Bernie what happened to Nino,
you know the story about the scorpion and the frog? Your friend Nino didn't make it across the river.
that's his way of saying the life finally caught up to him, since in this world, you either end up dead or in jail. And that's his film in a nutshell. Everyone is a frog because everyone is vulnerable to danger. So Drive is a film where every character is hiding something. Bernie has his eyebrows shaved so you can't read what he's thinking, Standard is trying to turn a new leaf for his family, and Driver mirrors Bernie in that he's trying to hide any signs of weakness. Even in scenes where the camera says he's in control, he's trembling as if he's out of his element.
And what do you get out of it?
Just that. Out of it.
So what does all of this have to do with the score? Well, here's a little trick. Try to find the melody to the music in this scene and hum along to it.
It's only part-time. Mostly I work at a garage.
Where?
Reseda Boulevard.
Now try humming to this.
Come on, it's okay. Come here. Don't be scared. Look. Don't mind me, okay?
Not as easy now, is it?
Okay, it's a secret between the four.
With this, Cliff Martinez instills an uncertainty of what is going to happen. When you can identify the melody of a song, you feel safe because it tells you that you know what's happening. But when it's all texture and there's no ground to walk on,
That was my husband's lawyer. He's coming home in a week.
we don't know how to feel. The synth soundtrack works in Drive because we associate it with how gilded 80s pop music was, and the glorified violence of action films are as equally gilded. On the outside, it's pretty and easy to go with, but inside it's hollow and empty, and that's the world that Driver has found himself trapped in. So every song carries this sense of dread to it despite how catchy they are. The score to Drive works because it adds a personality that helps to immerse us in a protagonist that wants to keep everything hidden from us. It's music that speaks for an otherwise laconic character.
And he said, this is the movie. It's about a guy who drives around listening to music because it's the only way he can feel.
I mean, in the end, technology is only there to help the actors express their emotions because that's what we as an audience essentially relate to. I mean, right. You know, we will believe anything if the actors believe it. We'll believe hyperspace because the actors believe it.
The soundtrack to Drive is special not only because it's a character of the film itself, but is instead the main character.